All right, good morning, everyone. We're here to discuss a new and exciting technology with Verdesian Life Sciences with GreenPoint Ag has been working on for a couple of years now. On this call today, we have farmers that have worked with SEED Graphite on their farms to industry experts, as well as agronomists that work with the technology and support the growers on a daily basis. So with that, I will start introductions. My name is Julia Austin. I am a marketing manager with the GreenPoint Ag organization. I help support products and promote them. Next, we have up Adam Blaschcheck.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure being with you guys here. I'm the director of R&D at Cytozyme, Research and Development, Molecular Biology. My background is in molecular biology and how genes are being regulated. I've studied actually the transcriptional regulation of genes back when I was doing my PhD and how bacteria respond to stress. After that, I moved up to higher organism. I was actually studying how this gene expression goes wrong in cancer. This is here at Huntsman Cancer Institute, especially in leukemia. So my background is in cancer as well. And then I was the director of Innova Bio, a contract research organization. We're doing contract research for local biotech companies here in Utah and California. And then one of our clients was Cytozyme. They contracted us to do some research on the mode of action of their products that they've developed. And we got really exciting results with that, good insight. And that's when I was brought on board full time to expand this capacity at Cytozyme. And we've been developing newer products by this incredible understanding on how the product works on the molecular level.
Awesome. All right, next we have Trevor Smith, that is an agronomist with us here at GreenPoint.
Hey, thanks, Julia. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I work with GreenPoint Ag as well, working on the agronomy side. And so throughout my career, I've worked retail for several years, worked with a lot of farmers, and now currently work with sellers in our cooperative retail locations in West Tennessee. So I'm glad to be here today. Thank you.
All right, and next is Andy Ulmer with Verdesian Life Sciences.
Hello, and thank you for this call today and everybody that had a part in putting it together. It's an exciting product, and I'm glad to be a part of this discussion. Thank you, Julia. I work with Verdesian as an account manager. For 25 years, I have been in some form or fashion a sales agronomist, and so I've worked with, similar to Trevor, worked from retail to on the farm call to the position I'm in now. I cover the state of Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and North Mississippi for Verdesian. And again, just thanks everybody for joining today. This is a good product, an exciting product to work with.
Thank you, Andy. All right, next we have our grower, Will Robinson.
Yeah, Will Robinson from around Milan, Tennessee. We row crop corn, cotton, soybeans, got beef cattle also. Worked with Andy a couple of times, and glad to be on here.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for your introductions. So to start off today, I'd like to talk about GreenPoint Ag. So as you know, everyone is probably familiar with, not too long ago, we came together, GreenPoint Ag, Tennessee Farmers Co-op, and Agra AFC came together to be able to bring valuable products to the farm gate. So, you know, we talk a lot about nutrient use efficiency. So Trevor, what can we expect to see from GreenPoint as it pertains to nutrient use efficiency? What do you think will change with this new organization, and what will stay the same?
Thank you, Julia. Well, you know, I think as we look at the new organization and three companies coming together, it's always challenging to merge those cultures of all those different companies. But I think for all of us in the history of the companies, the one commitment is to the growers that we serve, to look for products and bring innovations to them that can help make them more successful. So I think, you know, that's one thing that'll definitely stay the same. You know, as we look around us in the ag industry today, we see more and more concerns are revolving around the environmental aspects and being good stewards of what we've been given. So I think as we move forward, that'll continue to become more important and something that we'll continue to focus on.
Great. So to get around to the Seed Plus Graphite, what we're here to talk about today, let's start there. So Adam, how about you tell us a little about Cytozyme's story and how your team discovered the Seed Plus technology?
Well, it's an actually pretty fascinating story because Cytozyme has been around for over 40 years. So it's a technology that's been developed long time ago, and it's been now made very sophisticated. But the basis of the technology is coming from over 40 years ago. It's actually a small family-based owned company here in Salt Lake City, and it's I think what's beautiful about it is that the product was developed originally when it was actually ahead of the times. So now it's booming because we have much better understanding using the tools of the modern science, and we obviously tweaked it so it's very efficient and it's very innovative. But also, I think the market, the way Trevor was describing it, the market is always, it's also ripe for this product now because people care more about environment and how it's all natural product. And all natural meaning it's harnessing the power of nature. It's harnessing, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but it's the thousands of years of coevolution between microbes and plants and how we're harnessing those natural mechanisms to help the plants.
So how does that mode of action work exactly?
Yeah, so the mode of action is it's actually where it gets fascinating. So first of all, there's three important questions if you don't mind me jumping into this. It's what is in the product, and how does the product work, and then why it does what it does, and why is it necessary, sort of what is the problem that it addresses. So those three issues. So the product itself has the metabolically active compounds, as we call it. So it has the fermentation metabolites, and this is the key to success. It's a proprietary process that the company developed through those years. And the way I like to describe it is it's like we're taking microbes on this journey. It's a multiple day, multiple stage process, very complex. And then we have at the end molecules, proteins, peptides, amino acids, carboxylic acids, carbohydrates coming as those fermentation metabolites, combined with naturally chelated micronutrients, iron, manganese, zinc, copper, all of those together that create those metabolically active compounds. And those are the molecules that trigger in plants those beneficial effects, those modes of actions. So this is what's in the product. It's very natural. It's coming from the fermentation, this proprietary fermentation process. Now, how does it help? Why does it matter? What's the problem that farmers are facing? Well, if you don't mind, I will explain a little bit about the issue with stress that plants are enduring all the time, and this is the key point, because sometimes we think that there's my plants don't look stressed, my crops don't look stressed. We've seen this, that actually in order to accomplish perfect environment for the crops, you have to keep those plants in growth chamber, and you have to provide them with perfect humidity, temperature, amount of light. So anything that's out of the range, and we all know that nowadays the environment, the climate is providing us with a lot of challenges. So we have sometimes too much light, too much UV. It gets too hot, it gets too cold. So anything outside of this range that we can only accomplish in the lab, it's actually stress. And stress, we call it abiotic stress, because this is not coming from any living organisms. There's obviously biotic stress that you can address with with all the chemicals that are being applied. But it's actually shocking how much of the loss of the yield farmers are enduring because of this abiotic stress. So because of those changes in environment, it's actually been estimated to be over 65% of the potential yield. So it's an incredible loss that we could go after, and we could help farmers regain it. So any of those issues are caused by reactive oxygen species. So all of those stresses cause free radicals to come to higher levels in the plants, and those are usually balanced by antioxidants. So I will tell you about how the Cytozyme product is now working through those two modes of action. So first one is that we were able to measure this, that we have a very high antioxidant activity in the product itself. So the moment you apply the product, I like to compare it to like the fire extinguisher, we have this immediate effect on the plants. So imagine you have this kind of a scale, and you have the out of the balance situation when you have high amount of free radicals caused by stress that I was describing. So too much water, not enough water, drought, temperature. It gets out of balance, and you need antioxidants. Antioxidants are in high demand. You supply it with the product. We have data that shows that in the product, we were able to accomplish 10 times higher levels of antioxidant activity as compared to other competitors. So you're delivering 10 times higher amount of those antioxidants to counterbalance the stress. And the second one is that I can get a little bit deeper to the second mode of action is that actually those metabolically active compounds that are in the product are triggering genetic gene expression effect in the plants. And we can talk about this a little bit deeper in a moment.
Thank you. So where do you see this technology going in the future?
Well, I think it's already developed, because we have products that are applied foliarly, and then we recently developed this product that's developed to the seeds, which is incredible opportunity, because that's coating the seeds so it affects the plants at those early stages, and it's applying this with graphite, which farmers are using anyway. It's an incredible beneficial value proposal for the farmers. Because it doesn't require any extra step of application. It's almost the same cost, but it provides those added benefits to graphite that give the plants the boost at those early stages. And the life is really harsh for the little seedling and trying to come out from the ground. And if we can help through those two modes of actions, that's incredible. We can help with delivering antioxidants at those early stages of the seedling development. If we can increase gene expression of all those categories of genes that we can talk about, that's incredible as well.
Thank you. So now I'd like to turn back to Trevor. So it's critical to the job to continually bring new ideas and solutions to the farm gate. How do you vet the technologies that you bring to customers, not only the local member co-op agronomists, but the growers as well?
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, that's a good question. So with our agronomy team, the important thing to us is that when we come to our retailers, or when we go to the farm gate, that we're bringing something new, that it's something that's going to bring value to them. And so we usually start that process as much as we can internally. And that usually involves our team basically looking at the science behind, the claims with the product. And then we'll try to test that product as much as we can within our own ranks to get a feel for how the product has the potential to perform. And so from that point, we rely heavily on our member co-ops and, of course, the growers to try to get these products out in as close to real world situations as we can. Normally, we'll try to do that with the side-by-side that we can put out the treated versus untreated, and monitor that throughout the season to see what kind of differences we see in season, and then, of course, obviously at harvest, hopefully some yield improvement.
So the biological space, is pretty cluttered. What caught your attention about Seed Plus Graphite?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's cluttered. There are a lot of products out there in this biological space, and more coming all the time, it seems like. But if we will go back to that initial stage when we were doing some testing on a small scale, I grew out some seed in my office and did a time lapse video. It was very easy to see early on that this product, there was something happening, there was something going on. And so, from there we had confidence to take it to the field, and those results continued to show up. I know some of the comments that Will has shared, he was instrumental in part of that. So growers from across the state, we got similar stories, pictures, aerial imagery coming back, and we were seeing a noticeable difference with Seed Plus Graphite, and then that carried on in through harvest. So we had a lot of data that came from different places showing that we were getting a yield advantage as well.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. It's great to see the process of how the product gets from, through the process of testing all the way to the farm gate. So let's get around to Will, who has firsthand experience with Seed Plus Graphite. So, you both have reputations for seeking out new technology that works, but is also sustainable for the environment and your business. When we talk about nutrient use efficiency and getting the most out of every acre, how do you approach that in your own operation?
Well, I'm not really a big component of, I guess, what they call snake oils or anything like that. So we kind of got to go off of past trials and stuff from other producers, and kind of go off what the salesmen tell us a little bit too. So when we were trying to use the seed graphite stuff the first time, I was actually going to try to put it under some irrigated corn, just in case it didn't have that big of a response. I could kind of get my money back, because we were using talcum powder anyways. And I think it was maybe an extra $2 an acre or something, so it wasn't a whole lot to begin with. But the way the weather worked out, we had our irrigated corn planted, and I ended up using this in some bottom corn that's got a big flood on it, and I could really tell the difference in the population stand and the vigor of the seed.
Great. Andy, what have you seen out there as well?
Some things have surprised me and some hadn't. I just appreciate Adam bringing this technology to us. But Trevor mentioned, there's several things that go on with Seed Plus Graphite. And it's really neat that we can replace that talcum powder. We can replace that graphite that growers are already using. And then we can give them a product that has a micronutrient plan, that has something that's gene altering, that turns things, like Trevor said, the switch on the plant. And so I've seen things like on Will, Will and I went out and looked at his cotton field, and we could see where he'd split a planter, and we could see, like he said, the early season vigor coming out of the ground. On another grower there in the same county, we saw tremendous yielding difference. And when I say tremendous, I'm talking about, it was only 3 or 4 bushel, but as Will mentioned, we're talking about a product that is very economical. And so it was like a 5 ROI. And so when you can get a return on investment of 5 to 1, that's pretty good. And so there's all kinds of exciting things that just happen with this product for very little amount of money.
Will, with all the options in the biological space, how do you measure the value of a biological technology like Seed Plus Graphite, both on the yield monitor and throughout the growing season? How do you measure success?
Well, like I said, whenever we tried it on that bottom planted corn, we planted it, I believe, May the 2nd. And after we planted it, it got like a 2.5 or 3 inch rain like the next day. And I didn't really know what to expect from the product. And I was really just looking for a yield bump. Really, I didn't know about the vigor of the seed, but that's really where I noticed it, because we expected to replant everything we planted that day. And after about 5 to 7 days, we went back and looked at it and got our seed rep and expecting to find a lot of spots we'd have to replant, but all the seeds were still good. Nothing was rotted. We ended up not having to replant anything. And that's what I was most impressed with, was the early season vigor. And the temperature changed, I remember, during that time. And it should have been replanted, I thought, but we didn't have to. And like Andy said, in the cotton, after I saw that in the corn, I decided to split the planter. I didn't think about it when we were planting the corn. We were just trying to get it in the ground as quick as we could. But when we started with the cotton, I did split a planter, and we did seed counts, and they were like 10% better where the seed plus graphite where it was. I mean, a better stand, more uniformed, a little bigger plant also.
That's great. So across your entire operation, what did you see in 2020?
I was pleased with it. I believe in the corn, especially. It like I said, I used it more on corn, and I believe it helped in the yield bump, and also just like I said, the early vigor in the plant. I tried a little bit in the cotton. Like it was kind of a little harder to see yield wise. I really need to try to split a field, I guess, so I could weigh it up a little better. But you could see a difference in just the seed population and stand for sure.
Yeah, and Andy and I worked early on in the season with some in-season imagery, and I think right off the jump that Andy and I were able to see differences from the imagery.
Yeah, Julia, it was amazing, and some of that was in that same area. Within 5 days, we could see R7 satellite imagery in the field. It was just crazy, and those strips went on to yield different too, and we followed all the way through with the combine, and those same strips that you and I saw in the R7 showed up in yield at the end of the season. Like I said, about 3 to 4 bushel difference, and that was on, every field was stripped. And so it wasn't like a side by side once a moon thing. It was every field that Ryan did was stripped, and so we had yield data from all of them, and they all showed the same thing we saw from the very beginning, like you mentioned in the R7.
Great. So as we talk about going into 2021, what on-farm experience do you have lined up, Andy? For your growers that you work with, and Will, talking about your own operation as well.
Well, for 2021, I'm going to try it some more on corn, and I'm going to try it a little more in depth on the cotton also. But and getting back to the 2020 year, where we had a really wet, cool, damp growing season, especially early in the year. All of our crop was late. I think it was very stressful on the seed. In every crop we had, it ended up turning out really good, yield wise and population stand and everything. So I guess I'm just hoping for the same thing in 2021.
Andy?
Okay, so I would like to see more trials like we did this year, let some people look at it in different situations. I remember Will telling me that his neighbor came by one day and stopped. Will, and you remember, is like he asked you like what you had done different. And so, we just saw all kinds of neat things. One thing that has not been talked about on this call is convenience. And so one of my focuses will continue to be getting dealers set up where they can put this on for the grower at the time of seed treatment, or at the time the grower picks it up at the dealer, at the warehouse or at the seed distribution center or wherever, because that convenience step helps the grower not have to, work with that talc or graphite or whatever in the field later. And so we get a really good application doing that too, Adam. And so looks really good on the seed. And so probably focus as much on that as anything, Julia, just getting that convenience aspect going, because we know the product works in the field. Now logistics is how do we get it on the seed and get it on correctly, because just dumping it in the bin and hoping that it goes on, is something we need to avoid.
Yeah, and there's a couple things I want to revisit here. So Andy, can you talk about how the product is available? What is the grower, if they are looking to purchase this, what are they going to be asking for?
You talking about it's available in like a 5-pound container.
Okay.
Or a 20-pound pail. And like the 5-pound container, just for convenience purposes, it works out to where the rate is a 5-pound container does a 40-unit pro box of soybeans, for example. And so it's pretty convenient. If your grower wants to apply it himself, there's measuring scoops, that he puts in. But a lot of it is being applied at the seed dealer now. And so that's kind of a convenience that they don't have to mess with.
Great. So you talked about convenience, Andy. So on the farm in the real world, how important is it to you for the ease of use for the product?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, the most important thing is just efficiency and time management, I guess you'd say. And yeah, if you can put it on when they're treating the seed at the local co-ops, that would just save one more step in what we have to do. Like I said, we were already putting the talc powder in our planters anyways, so we were used to measuring it out and dumping it in each hopper and all that. But if they could go on and do it, that'd even eliminate us from having to mess with the powder and stuff in the field.
Great. So Andy and maybe Trevor, I'd like to revisit the topic of gene expression. Several of you have mentioned that on this call today. And so what does that look across the South by each individual crop?
So if I can jump in here, I think this is, it's pretty fascinating what Andy was saying. He was giving this idea of this satellite view imagery where we look at the plant from this outside look and we see those tremendous effects. I think what really helps also is for the next year, as you guys were discussing, is to help farmers understand how the product works, because we do have this incredible understanding and it gives credibility to the product. And a lot of times I think we underestimate the importance of understanding of, okay, I see it, that it works, but how it works. And it's an incredible story that we have that we need to get out to the farmers. And I know that it sounds very scientific and very nerdy, but actually I think that people can grasp the idea of, as we were alluding to, the importance of gene expression, changes in gene expression, and how we help plants protect themselves. So the whole idea that, from my perspective, that what we did the studies, and then we see that upon application, and as you asked, what crops, I mean, we did it on corn, we did it on other plants as well, but in corn, if we apply this to the seed versus control, we see changes in over 1,000 gene expression. So it's not just 1, 2, 3 genes, the expression of those genes, how they work, we affect. But we see it in over 1,000 genes, and then those genes fall into not some random categories, but they fall into those 4 categories, which is the photosynthesis, and we all understand why photosynthesis is important. It increases energy and carbohydrate supply to the whole seedling. And then those carbohydrates then fuel the seedling and strengthen the cell walls. They're the building blocks, the structural components of cell walls and plants, and they store the energy, and they make it more accessible. Then the other group is the lipid metabolic processes, the genes involved in lipid metabolic processes to strengthen cell membranes, so that the plants are not losing the cell membranes, the function of all organelles. And then, as we were talking about, is that the redox, redox homeostasis, so this balancing of the antioxidants, I mentioned that the first mode of action is that we deliver antioxidants, but also we affect genes that are involved in making their own antioxidants. So that's an incredible story that if we can get out to the farmers. I like to use always this comparison that, when we humans have a vitamin D deficiency, you can pop the pill and you could take vitamin D in the pill, but you can also get out in the sun and your body makes your own vitamin D. So it's the same what we're doing here. We're delivering antioxidants, but also we're triggering in plants so that they make their own antioxidants and they can defend themselves. I think that this is incredible that we're affecting all those categories of genes. So we help those plants now to work not on one cylinder, if we compare it to an engine, but all the cylinders are banging with full power with those seedlings. So I think that's a challenge as well. How do we convey this incredible story behind not only that product works, not only that it's convenient, but also that it's, we have this credible information about how it works, which you said, Julia, that the biological space is so crowded with other products, and a lot of this is unfortunately the snake oil claims and so on. The last thing that I wanted to add to this is convenience, but also the shelf life storage. I mean, that's incredible. We have over 4 to 5 years, room temperature storage. So that's the convenience as well. It doesn't have to be stored at a certain temperature. That's something that needs to be added as well.
Great. One thing I would like to revisit at the beginning of the call, you talked about abiotic stress. Can you go into further detail about what that is and what stress falls into that category?
Yeah, so I touched upon a little bit that it's everything that is a non-living stress. So anything that comes from the environment, and this is that's an incredible story by itself as well, as because very often this is where the farmers can do little about. I mean, we can help with water by irrigation, but even with that, if it's too much rain, we can't help with that. So flooding, drought, cold, too hot, UV radiation, but also chemical application. So anytime the farmers are adding fungicide or herbicide, that also falls into abiotic stress. So any of those stresses, salinity, that causes, and another thing that causes stress, but it's also a range of the stress. So you can have one season higher stress, you can have another season a little bit lower stress. And that's why you may see a little bit more of an effect on certain year than another year, but there's always stress. That's my point. But also it's kind of incredible because it's almost like an insurance program for like an added benefit that if you add it with graphite, once again, that farmers are using anyway, you're buying yourself insurance that should anything go out of control, we're covered. The plants know how to defend themselves.
No, I think that's great. No two seasons are alike. Like Will mentioned, we started off wet this year. And then next year, who knows what the season will bring. So at least we have that insurance to cover, all sides of the spectrum. So Adam, can you talk a little bit, what comes next for the Seed Plus family of technologies?
Well, this is where I don't want to get too much into the science of it, because the beauty of understanding of how the product is also that we can now tweak it. We can work with formulation to come up with a new family of products that will hopefully help us deal with specific problems that farmers have. Because if you imagine that if we map as I mentioned, it's over 1,000 genes. There's, and depending on what plant it is, but there's somewhere between 25 to 40,000 genes in different crops. So if you map it, which sort of buttons the product is pushing, now we can look, and then we know we have a very good understanding of what those genes function in. So what they help with, as I was saying, carbohydrates, lipid metabolic processes, photosynthesis, or the redox. So the balancing of those free radicals. Then we can, or we have genes that are just specifically involved in drought tolerance. Then we can look for novel products that will be specifically helping with those. So that there's, I mean, the sky is the limit here with as far as what we can develop, and the beauty of this also is that we have sort of a matrix that we know how it works. So we don't have to, before we go into field trials, we can see very quickly in the lab what are specific formulations, specific molecules now are good candidates for field trials, if it makes sense.
Great, thank you. As we wrap up here, I'd like to ask Andy, what are your plans? You cover the Southeast. What are your plans for 2021? And for growers who want to try Seed plus Graphite for the 2021 crop, what should they be looking for in season?
Okay, so it's all about risk mitigation, and the industry tells us that when we open a bag of corn seed, it has a 600 bushel potential, and from that moment on, it's not about gaining yield, it's about protecting yield. And so this product is just one of those tools that helps us do that. It's not great leaps and bounds, but it gets us in that direction. And so my goal this year, as much as anything, Julia, is just to spread that message out, and we saw things all season long with this product. And then, I would like to point out to any cotton farmers that may be watching this, we saw, even at Wheels, we saw side-by-side differences, not only in seed coming up and seed stand, but also in disease. And so we picked up that resilience there, and everybody knows how finicky cottonseed can be. And so it's all about, again, risk mitigation. We all understand that Will mentioned did a good job talking about his field that got flooded. And by all accounts, Will and I looked at that field, and, there are times, many years past, where they did have to replant that. And Trevor can tell you as good as anybody, anytime that you have a sporadic seed stand coming up, or anytime that you have missing seed or anything like that, you're losing yield. One more part we have not talked about today, and that is this. When it comes to mechanical side and using the product, this has been tested some more, Adam, and then tested some more by John Deere, by Case, by Kinsey. Several tests been done with Monosim, and also Precision Planting has put this to the mill. What's interesting, Julia, is not once did we see any skips or doubles with this product. And so the integrity of replacing a talc and graphite, it's all there. And so this is a total package product. And that's one message I would like to share with everybody throughout the year is we're replacing talc and graphite with an excellent product. We're giving it a biostimulant, and we're turning on genes in the plant. And we're also giving it that really good early season fertility around that seed to help it get started off good. So my message this year is just to preach the word about it, Julia.
Great.
One more thing. Whenever Adam was talking, it made me think of this. Whenever we did split our planter, when we were planting cotton, I did go back and dig up the seed probably about 3 or 4 days after we planted. And where we didn't use the product, probably had a 1/4 of an inch sprout. And where we used the product, probably had a inch sprout or longer. And I guess that goes back to what he was saying about some of the biological things that it's doing. But that was visible in the cotton for sure.
Trevor, is there anything else you'd like to, add? You cover West Tennessee. Is there anything else you've seen?
Well, yeah, so we talked a little bit about how our process for bringing products to our member co-ops and to the growers. And so, no doubt we did some work ourselves. I actually did my own time lapse video with some seed, very impressive results with that. So, and I know, some of that may be attached to this call as you guys are viewing it, but I would just say to anybody out there, take a look at this product. It's interesting to hear the science behind, but whether or not you're into that sort of thing or not, that there's something to this product, and it definitely works. So I encourage everybody to consider looking at it on your farm.
And if I can jump in, Trevor, I think that's a very good point, that seeing is believing. And I don't know if this is the right moment to mention this, but we came up with those kits where we send out kits with corn seeds, and then we can send it out to the farmers, to distributors, and you can run an experiment yourself. You can, as a matter of fact, when it comes, the whole kit comes with the instructions and with petri dishes, plates, and you can grow it with your kids at home. It's kind of a cool project. And you can throw away the seeds that we send, and you can use your own seeds. We recommend corn because that was optimized for corn. And you can see, we have time-lapse videos of this, but you can see it with your own eyes, how when you treat the seeds and without treatment, how those seedlings are coming up faster, what you guys were describing. It's incredible. So I always say seeing is believing for yourself.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's call. I just want to really say thank you for everyone that was involved. To Andy to bring in a perspective from Verdesian and the application of the product, to Will, just the grower experience and how it works, on the farm. And Trevor, how he works with the member cooperatives here at GreenPoint Ag. And Adam, thank you for bringing the science and all that behind the product. It definitely is interesting how this works to a deep molecular level. For any farmers out there, whether that be corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, and rice, if you'd like to see SEED Plus Graphite on your farm this 2021 crop year, you can reach out to your local agronomist. For more information, you can visit the Verdesian Life Sciences website. And definitely, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your local agronomist. Thank y'all.